Hello, everybody. This is Julie D from NorthernHills.news, and today I get to interview on Zoom Katarina Cook. I should say Judge Katarina Cook,
Thank you.
to use the formal title. And I know you're up, going to be up on the ballot. Actually, voting starts today. Tell everybody where they can find you on the ballot.
Well, I'm just about at the very bottom, so please don't get tired and stop. And because the judges, the difference with everybody else on the ballot and the judges is in Ohio, we are for the general election, it's a nonpartisan race. So you're not going to get tipped off by either one of the or any of the candidates as to whether or not there's a Republican or Democrat next to the name. It really has to be about who who you think that does the best job, and make sure you educate yourself. There's a website called Judicial Votes Count, and you can go on that and click on the county. It takes a couple steps, but it's doable. You click on the county, and then you can look up the judges and what their the candidates and their answers to the questions.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I will find that and post that out. Wonderful. Thank you. So before we get into the official questions, I'd like to know how COVID-19 has affected you and your campaign this year.
Well, boy, it certainly did come out of left field, didn't it, for everybody? I mean, at the beginning of the year, I would have said, "Are you kidding me?" This is like it's like a movie, like a bad movie that I feel like we're all living through right now. And so when it hit pretty quickly, and I think all the courts, all businesses, everybody were scrambling to figure out what to do. So as far as the campaign, I actually on the primary day, which was March 17th, St. Patty's Day, I had a fundraiser scheduled. I had Irish dancers going to be there. It was going to be a lot of fun. And a couple days before, the attorney, it was a law firm that was sponsoring the fundraiser. They said, I just don't think the governor, he's already letting people know he's really worried that he might be shutting it down the state. So we're going to do this ahead of time. And then, of course, Akron canceled their St. Patty's Day parade, completely changed it. So we were all set with stickers. I bought 10,000 of these stickers. Okay. Shirts, had everything lined up. And then, I think it was like maybe the day before we found out that we weren't going to have the parade either. So many things changed for the campaign. And honestly, when you have something as serious with this and you have a shutdown for the country, and even the primary gets delayed, I think it would have been very selfish for me to keep chugging along with my campaign. So I really sort of sat back and watched to see what would happen, because in all fairness, everybody had much more serious things on their mind than, a judicial race in November. And so that's what I did. And really, most of my time was taken up by dealing with what was going on at my court, at Summit County Domestic Relations Court. Well, a lot of people started dealing with, having hearings or whatever remotely. I did not. The other judge did not either. There's only 2 judges. There's 10 magistrates. In a total, we have 40 people at the court, and everybody needed to know what was the next step and who can give you those answers, but the leaders. And in a court, the judges are the leaders. And so we had to make decisions. I mean, frankly, I probably saw more of Judge Quinn when this was all going on than at any other time, because we were constantly updating policy, responding to what the governor was saying, making statements, and posting it on our website. A good example of this is when the media took the children having, school ending, right? They said, okay, school's going to end, and they said early spring break. That's how they called it. Well, in the divorce world, when you have 2 parents, a lot of times one parent, one parent gets spring break one year and the other one gets the other year. So when they said early spring break, the parent that's waiting for the spring break was like, it's my spring break. And I had to say, whoa, 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 wait a second.
Right.
This is like I said, if you had a hurricane and school stopped, if there was a tornado, if the school caught on fire, just because the kids aren't in school doesn't mean that spring break starts. And that's what the media said. So we had to clarify that really quickly and make sure they understood what that was. So a lot of changes, we limited the, excuse me, the amount of people that came into court, but we couldn't stop it. Certainly we couldn't stop our hearings because of the fact that at Domestic Relations Court in Summit County, we handle civil protection orders, and people come in daily asking for protection orders because they've either been abused or they've been threatened. And so we had to give them access to the court, but we just limited the way we conducted the hearings as far as, and remember at first, masks were not the thing to do. If you recall, it was like, well, masks don't work. So, like I said, everything was always changing and we had to keep updating it. The big thing about touching things, remember at first it was like, if you touch things, you were going to catch it from, the elevator button or, the door handle. So wiping things down constantly. We literally even had wipes. Somebody got wipes. I don't know. They must've had a hoard somewhere stashed. They had it in our elevators so we could use them, take a wipe off the elevator buttons and go up. And I will say that with all those people, because we were really concerned that anybody who had any potential exposure, we said, you're going to quarantine at home. You could work from home. Because we were really, I think advanced as far as taking that into consideration, that we have not had one case of COVID at our court. So, we've really tried to protect everybody. We have plexiglass up in our courtroom. You have to wear masks around the court. And
You
so
probably have the cleanest elevator buttons in the county.
we do have the cleanest elevator buttons. And we actually have staff, Summit County, I got to give them credit. There's some people, because of the way, things have changed where some people don't come in as much to like personally. And so there's some employees that, they could do other jobs. So we actually have like a souped up cleaning staff, so to speak, so that after every hearing in my court, they come in and they wipe down all the surfaces.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So we try to make it as safe as possible for our public. And, everybody's really just, pulling their own weight and doing what they can. But, there's a couple people that are still working from home out of necessity, but they're doing their job. They're doing their work. We got up pretty quickly as far as Zoom. I mean, Zoom wasn't, I didn't know what Zoom was, right? I mean, here we're on it, but it was Skype before. That was the thing. And so at first we were trying to struggle with Skype, which is so cumbersome. Then all of a sudden everybody starts talking about Zoom, and we got on that like within a couple of days. And that has been such a lifesaver. So there's things that we've done with COVID that we'll probably keep, I will say.
Yes.
It's easier on the public. It's easier on people coming into court or not coming into court, right? So, I have hearings for, to finish up a case, a divorce case or a dissolution case. And now you can actually, just hit my address, right? You can go into my courtroom, the waiting room, and then you'll be on and I will handle your hearing via Zoom.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah,
right.
I love Zoom. I can do interviews like this. I don't have to travel. Actually can interview anybody now. I can interview someone in LA,
Right.
So it's some good things have come out of this.
Right. It has. But I will tell you, I think that, a lot of us are missing a lot of things that,
there's
events, seeing people, or how about this? When you approach somebody and you want to say hello, and then it's like, how do you say hello? Isn't an elbow bump? Are we going to do a fist bump? I feel like it's one of those fraternity handshakes where you do all these different things.
But you don't know. You don't know what you're supposed to do. It's like they didn't tell you the secret handshake.
I know.
You're supposed to know. Well, I would like to ask you about your career. You focus much of your career on advocating for abused and neglected children. Why do you remain passionate about this cause?
Um, because there's always much to be done. And I'm the oldest of three. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 7, and I'm an immigrant. I'm not from this country. English is my second language, and my mother got sick a few years after she was divorced, and so I sort of became the little mom, right? And to make extra money, I babysat. So I will tell you, I've always liked children. It's when you have a passion, it's got to be natural. It's not just because it sounds good. It doesn't. It's not that
The
it
right
sounds
thing to do.
exactly. It may be the right thing to do, but honestly, everything I do is oftentimes relates to children. I mean, I've been a mock trial coach for, I don't know, I was for 12, 13 years for middle school. And then I did high school, and I've judged mock trial competitions for children and high schoolers. I've been on the street law committee. I've been, the chair and vice chair. I've organized events. I've gone to get street law taught in schools. And because I'm constantly advocating for children. And what I wanted to say about my background, my mom passed away when I was 16, and my brother was 14, my sister was 9. You know, being that kind of little mother, you really understand children, and you understand that they're going through things that the teachers don't know about, that the next door neighbor doesn't know about, and they need to have a voice, and they always need to have a voice. And when COVID started, I will tell you, that's the first thing I said, that I was really worried that kids were not going to school because the mandatory reporters are at school, the counselors and the teachers. And when you have those children at home, some children are fortunate enough, and it's the majority, right, of children are fortunate enough to have parents that care, that want to make sure they get their work done, that'll sit with them. But some parents, if you could get a license to be a parent, you have to have a driver's license. Some people shake their heads and say that, but we don't do that. I mean, nobody does that, right? So, some people are natural parents and some people aren't. And who suffers for that but the innocent victims, which are children? And that will be a problem for time immemorial. And, the one thing I'm glad about is that things have become more open, incest, more open, sex offenses and pedophilia, a more open subject. Human sex trafficking, a much more open subject. And so it's good that we can talk about that, because then we know how to combat it. But you have to deal with it. And unfortunately, it happens each and every day. So, I feel like, and the thing is that then there's something new, right?
Oh,
Something
right.
else comes up, and you have to be on the, sort of the cutting edge and listening and being aware of it. So, I will always be passionate about it, because I was, like I said, from a very young age, I had to care for my own family. And, I ended up getting, scholarships to go to college. So did my brother and sister. My brother put himself through. My sister ended up going to Yale, on a scholarship. And so I'm very proud of my family, and from where we started, being on welfare, not having any money, living hand to mouth, to, where we are today.
Well, I think your background makes you help understand other people's problems.
Right, right. Yeah,
When you
I mean,
haven't had a dollar, it's like, in that situation, other people just can't relate to that.
right. I mean,
Go to
and
the
so
ATM. No, it's like, no.
right, right. And so, and then, it relates to, I have 4 boys, and a lot of times they think that they're like, oh, here she goes, she's going to tell another story. Like, well, yeah, I will tell another story, because I want you to know that, a lot of people, a lot of kids don't have what you have, and you should be very thankful and grateful, and learn to also, you pay it forward. And so I try to pay it forward by volunteering, because, like, for example, mock trials. So all my boys that was the one thing I could connect with them, because I'm not into sports. So I would, they were on the mock trial team, the 4 of them, even though
Right.
I did it continuously, they were on the team and that was one of their requirements, and their dad made them do it too.
That's great.
But what they have, learned about it is, and what was so neat is to see the kids that were either a little bit interested in this, and now to see that, they've graduated from college. I have one that's going to Michigan, one that went to Ohio State, graduated as a lawyer. So it's neat to see these kids who started out with that little bit of interest in, and I'm going to try out this mock trials team and see what that's about, to look where they are today,
Right.
or where they're going, and to be part of that process. It just, I mean, but I love kids. I love the kids with the little boys that are sort of chubby and they have the braces, and the girls that are taller that are in middle school. I mean, they're all so cute,
I know. And you can almost see what they're going to look like when they're older,
Right.
because they have that type,
Right.
So you're running in a contested county judicial race. What
Yes.
makes you stand out as a stronger candidate for domestic relations court judge? And why is that seat important to you?
Well, as I told you before, I'll tell you first why the seat's important to me and why it was from the beginning. When my mother passed away, we didn't have any money. My father did, and 3 days after she passed away, the judge signed an order. He never met us before. Signed an emergency order for my father to have custody. That sounds like a normal thing, except I think we maybe saw him once a year. We didn't have CSEA in those times. We didn't have Child Support Enforcement Agency. So he just wasn't around. And all of a sudden now he is. And he wasn't a good guy. And if you would have looked at his record or found out about him, you probably wouldn't have put 3 kids in his house. So thank goodness my mother's brother stepped up, and he basically had to fight for us. And it literally was a fight in 2 different courts. Started in domestic relations court, and it ended up in probate court, because we had to, there was the order in domestic relations court, but then my uncle had to go and adopt us in probate court. And actually that case made, I heard that it sort of made legal history in Summit County, because it was the first case where there was a non-parent, right, who made significantly less money, be permitted to have custody of 3 children. So that's where I started. And I said then, what judge would sign something and sign children away and never meet the kids? And so that's what I try to impress, that it's so important to do that. And for this seat, it was important to me, as a child. And throughout my legal career, I'm like, if I can ever right that wrong, if I can fix that, I will. And that's what I do. I don't allow ex partes. I make the parties come into court. I want to hear about it. I've had grandparents and fathers, if there's a mother suddenly passes away, and of course that, pulls at my heartstrings, but I want to hear the whole story. And a lot of times, if I can get 2 people in a room, in a courtroom, it's amazing the agreements that they'll come up with for the best interest of that child, because that child's gone through enough. They've lost a mother. Now, now what? The only other people they love are fighting with each other. And I always tell them, I go, you know what? This child's so important because they have all of you fighting over them. So let's see if we can get some agreements so you can share your time with them. So that really helps. I do have a lot of, I've already been here as a judge. I've been here for 4 years. I'm running for the open seat. Before I was at the Summit County Domestic Relations Court, I was at the Akron Municipal Court. I was a judge there from 2009 to 2016. So about 7 years. And I was a presiding judge over OBI court. So those are the drunk driving cases. Those were multiple offenders. And I had a pretty good success rate, about a 70% success rate with graduating these people. And when you graduated, you were sober with a driver's license and had a good job. You had a job, right? You're actually a productive part of society. I've actually had people who have come to find me. I'm now at domestic relations court. And the deputy will be like, Judge Cook, so-and-so. I go, well, I find out that this is this person that I helped at Akron Municipal Court, but they just wanted to say thank you, and they wanted to tell me where they are now and where they are on their sober journey in recovery. So it's very heartwarming to see that I've made a positive impact, you know, as a judge. Before that, I was a traffic court magistrate for 4 years. So when I became, you know, an OVI judge, to know about somebody's record. So, you know, you get a drunk driving charge. Some people don't even have a license, a valid license. So you had to do all those steps. And there's a lot of steps sometimes when you have 30 suspensions on your record, how to undo all that.
Yes.
And I know. So I used to be like the resident expert. You know, people would come into me, attorneys were like, how do we fix this? And I'm like, well, you have to start here, then you go here. And so that's what I did there. Before that, I was a, you know, when I graduated from law school, I worked for a little bit in a private firm for about a year. I worked for 3 different judges. So why did I want to be a judge? It's like, well, you know, I did work as a law clerk for Judge Schneiderman at Akron Municipal Court. I did an internship for a federal court of appeals judge. And I also worked for Judge Clyde. After I was a lawyer, I worked for him down in Stark County, and that was a common pleas court, and learned about all kinds of law. And that's why I wanted to be a law clerk, because I thought if I could get that experience in a lot of different areas, then I could see what I liked. Then I got hired by Bob Horowitz down at the prosecutor's office in Stark County, and I was in the juvenile division. And there I specialized in the prosecution of child sex abuse cases. Once again, you know, that, you know, handling something that a lot of people, you know, just couldn't stomach. I would come home at night and my husband would be like, I would say, oh, you know, this one case, don't tell me about it. I can't, you know, I just can't hear it. It's just too bad. And they were, I mean, there would be times I would be writing a complaint and crying, honestly, because it was so horrible what these kids went through. And I was on the Stark County Child Abuse Task Force with, you know, children's services workers, police officers. They would present the case. We would decide how to handle it, whether there was enough evidence. I would go interview the little ones. I got trained to interview the really, really little ones, and to ask them questions so that I wasn't putting words in their mouth. They were just telling me their story. And so that's a very difficult thing to do. You know, as an interview, right. You know, as an interviewer, if you can say things to somebody and it's just like, it, especially somebody is impressionable as a very young child, and they'll just go yes because they think you want them to say yes. So I learned how to do that. So there was a joke, as a matter of fact, my husband tells people that he saw somebody I work with, a coworker, and they go, oh, we call her Law and Order Katarina. And he goes, well, why do you call her that? And he goes, because she tries everything. And when my husband told me that, I go, yeah, I try everything. These are really serious cases. And the charge wasn't written, the complaint wasn't filed because, you know, I didn't have the evidence. It's because there was a real problem, and we need to get that solved, and we need to deal with that person that is hurting children. So,
and it also goes to show you that maybe some other people don't try everything. Don't you think everybody should try everything? And maybe not everybody does that.
Well, you know, there's certain cases where, you know, if you think about it, if you let one person who's perpetrating on a child, you know, if you let that go, what happens? Then that person becomes emboldened and does it again and again. And so that's why, you know, those people have to be dealt with accordingly, because, you know, it's not just the simple act. It's the, you know, post-traumatic stress from it. It's the hiding about it. It's the feeling that you're the reason. These children think that they did something wrong and they somehow deserve it, and they don't. And so obviously you can see how passionate I get about it. But anyways, a couple other things I did after that. After I left the prosecutor's office, I then was a guardian ad litem at juvenile court, got my training, which is a volunteer training. It was 40 hours at the time. And that's where I got an award for, I got recognized by the Congress at the time for the state of Ohio for my work as a guardian ad litem. I was on the first CASA board, which was like, CASA is like what the national guardian ad litems are called, basically. And so I was on the first board at juvenile court. And then I applied and became a guardian ad litem at domestic relations court, the very same one I'm here at. After that, I was interested in being a mediator. And so I worked with my former boss, who was at the prosecutor's office. He was in charge of setting up mediation in 5 courts. It was a pilot program back in the 90s. And so I took a class from him and I said, hey, Frank, how do I, I'd really like to try this out. He goes, well, I could get you, maybe you could be a substitute mediator at General Division at Summit County. I'm like, okay. So I started there. Then I said, Frank, I'm interested in domestic relations mediation. He goes, okay, well, there's a class. I said, well, how about, what kind of job? And then I was in a practice group with him. And so I was doing mediations. And it's funny because I'm not that tech savvy, but they had such an archaic way of trying to even reserve a room. And I got them on a group email, you know what I mean? So
good.
Those are the kinds of things that I try to do. Why reinvent the wheel? But boy, if you can make it, if you can make it roll faster or better, smoother, I'm all about that. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's what I've done throughout. And then, when I was a mediator and a guardian ad litem, the job opportunity came up to work full-time as a magistrate. And I decided to do it. And there goes my judicial, experience. So.
Well, your career could have taken you anywhere. What is about Summit County that keeps you here working diligently in the community?
Family. I'm from here. I graduated from Firestone High School in 1982. So our family sort of landed here from the former Yugoslavia. So my family was here. I love this area. I mean, I did go away. I went away to the University of Rochester in New York, and I graduated in history and psychology for my undergrad degree. I took a year, I studied abroad in Vienna. I lived in Boston for a while. I did a semester in Boston. My first job was in Atlanta, Georgia. And while I was getting that training for the sales training, I was on Long Island. So and also in Washington, DC. So I was in some big cities, in some different places. And, Ohio's always sort of been home to me. We gripe about it a lot, but when you go someplace like, Washington, DC, and you just try to go to a restaurant and it's, it takes an hour to get there. It's just not so much fun. You could do that for a few days, but what a pain to do that all the time. So the thought
nice place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there.
Exactly. So it's like, 15 to 30 minutes, you can be anywhere you want. So that's what I love about here. It's so convenient. Great neighborhoods, a lot of history. I love the park system. I enjoy it every single day that I can. I love the change of seasons. I'm a master gardener and I've been one for over almost 25 years.
How do you have time?
That's my quiet. That's where I,
Okay.
sort of like my Zen, and it's like, you put on a different hat. So, I
A garden hat.
a garden hat. Yes. A garden hat and garden gloves, but I enjoy doing that, and connecting, and I've always been, environmentally conscious. Did I say that word right? I know how to spell it, but I can't say it really that well. But I love, that's what we do is we travel. We'll go to, I'll say, oh, guess what? They have a garden tour there. So I'm like, we're going to go to Nantucket because there's a garden tour.
That's right.
You can go fishing, right? But I'll go on the garden tour. so that, but Summit County is amazing and our history is amazing. And we have some of the best hospitals in the world. I mean,
right.
We don't even think about how fortunate we are. People come from around the world to go to Cleveland Clinic, and it's a half an hour from my house. I mean, we are extremely fortunate for all the resources we have in this state. And then the fact that if we want to go someplace else, we're pretty centrally located and we can get there pretty fast. So I like Summit County for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I kind of feel like, being close to Cleveland, access to, obviously there's a big grid for freeways. You can go anywhere from here.
Right.
It's amazing. I mean, you can go to Florida without even hitting a traffic light once you get on the freeway.
That's true. And we have.
I thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie. I thank you for giving me the opportunity. And please, everybody, remember, this is our 100th year anniversary for the women's right to suffrage. So please, everybody, go out to vote, because in a lot of countries, like the one I'm from, you don't have that right to vote like we do. So just want to make sure that everybody votes and votes for their judges. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.